I didn't know how isolating that could feel. You're going in situations where you have a skill set, but I've jumped across different industries. So then you come in as an outsider with some skills and you have to build trust and people don't know you. They don't believe what you say. I'll tell you a story about project management, why a few years ago I went back and got the certification. So what you don't know, when we were still working together, we were in a complex environment. It was very toxic, to say the least. And I took the project management exam, and at the time I failed it. And looking back, it wasn't that I wasn't skilled, but the anxiety and the stress of being in that environment, I couldn't do my best. And so after failing it, I said, I'm not going to worry about it. I know how to manage projects. And I went on to nonprofits, managed projects, and became an executive in programs. I was like, I don't need the PMP, project management certification, forget it. And I started a therapy journey, a healing journey, and the opportunity came to get the certification paid for. And when I took the exam and I passed it, I felt a sense of joy that I had never felt. And it made me realize sometimes you need to go back and reconnect with some things to heal. Because out of all the things, and I appreciate that, but I really needed that. And it felt so good to do well in it and know that it just wasn't that time.
It wasn't that time. It's amazing how we get that story.
Also want to build your visibility up. That's a bright light you're going to have. Social capital, the people that know you, not that just that you know them, but they know you and your quality of work. How many people love a plan? How many planners? You have your planner, you write down everything you're going to do. You're taking notes right now to figure out what you're going to do better. Keep your plan, but be able to be adjust. You want to have a reputation for not only executing, but bringing those new ideas to the table. And the last one that many people may struggle with. How many people want to put your head down and just do a good job and people are going to notice you? In an ideal world, that might work. How many people take notes, detailed notes of what they're doing day to day and not wait for your annual performance review? Okay, I see a few hands. I want everybody to raise your hand and have that. Because your career is a journey and you're going to be calculating all these different things and you're going to be able to connect the dots well, so you need to document it. You want to make sure people know who you are. Because if you're going to lead the team, people have to be invested in you, believe in you, and trust you. And what better way to say, here is what I've done and how accomplished I am. How many people are going to go away from here and start documenting every day? Okay, going to hold you to that.
This chart on the right says you come up with an idea. You have this grand idea. All of it's going to work. You come up with your perfect plan, and then you come up with your strategy and goals. However, have you taken it to the team to figure out if that, in fact, is realistic? You will discover if you have when you don't necessarily achieve the certain amount of success that you want to. So, thinking about strategic agility in action means you're adaptable and flexible and willing to go back to the planning stage if necessary. Now, if you take a deep breath and you're thinking about strategic agility, we have to talk about understanding risk. It's the elephant in the room, the uncomfortable conversation that sometimes we don't want to have, but it's necessary. You must understand the risk attitudes of your team. You come up with your customer avatar, but you also have to understand the people executing the plans and ideas have risk attitudes. And make no mistake, your risk attitude can change based on the project. So you have people that are risk averse, who are like, I don't want to do that. It's too risky. Some people are risk tolerant and they say, okay, we can do this. Some people love the thrill of risk and say, let's go for it. Overall, you just have to figure out your risk tolerance. What are the risks you are willing to take? You have a lot of things to think about. You have to think about your profit and loss, your cost ratio, your resources, your human capital. All those things come into play. So, what are the risks you're willing to take? And understand the perspectives of your team. So, achieving high performing teams that are going to scale for the future, bright minds will kind of clash sometimes. You have direct versus indirect communication across different cultures and generations. And then that capacity that you have to take the risks. What capacity do you have? Where are you in your business cycle? What quarter are you in? What goals have you achieved that you can see past performance that you can show that you've done something well? And your idea of success may be that you have all the bright ideas, which, taking it to the team doesn't necessarily mean that. You have to be the person who removes the barriers and the roadblocks for people when they tell you the things that they need. Can you help them achieve that? Now, let's talk about some myths of innovation. It's chaos, right? You don't know the outcome. It doesn't have something that's predictable. So some people can see that as chaos. Another valid concern is we don't have a budget for innovation. We're barely doing what we already are doing. We're strapped for human capital. We don't have the resources to do that. These are all valid concerns. And of course, there's governance, there's compliance. We have to have all these gates that we go through, this approval process. How are we going to get here? How can we have some early wins? All valid concerns. And after we get through the myths, we have to understand the tension. There's a preference for structure. Flexibility is unknown sometimes. And again, there's governance and versus the speed. Okay, that sounds good, but we have to go through all these approval processes. And that can feel like an attack. Like you're saying you have this concern because it's valid. We're gonna have to go through all these gates. We have these approval cycles. All this is unknown. And then there's risk aversion. Absolutely, we're not going to do that. It's too uncomfortable. And we have many different risk attitudes that we'll talk about later versus experimentation. So, all of this, we have these myths and then this tension that we're going through. Now, you can choose to say, we're not doing that. We don't have budget. PMI has very valuable reports to talk about that. The Pulse of the Profession reports from 2021 to 2024 talk about this. 45% report lack of innovation threatens long-term success. So if we do nothing in the long term, will our business still be relevant? Will our service still be relevant? Right? Is our clients going to still be satisfied in the long term? We can continue business as is, but we have to ask ourselves that question. And almost 50% of people believe like, wait, we need to pay attention to this in the long term. 88% say adaptability and collaboration are essential to innovation. So we have to be adaptable and we have to collaborate. And then again, that focus on business acumen. Only 18% show strong business acumen. So it limits that strategic innovation. Now let's talk about the types of teams leading change. This photograph shows all hands on deck and understanding that we are pieces of the solution. So all these types of teams are pieces of the solution. You have teams that generate business value. They are the model of how you can achieve productivity, how you can be more effective, how you can lead change well. As I mentioned earlier, I was a part of a manufacturing team that rearranged a factory within 6 months. We were the smaller organization of a larger organization, and we became the ideal. Everyone wanted to see what we were doing. So, no matter how big or small you are, you can lead with business value. Then there are the teams that are aligned with the market rhythm. As we've seen during the pandemic, we had to learn how to use technology better. So the companies that were using technology, who can deliver their products and services rapidly, whether in person or not, aligned with what was happening in the market.
A question for you from Laura. Do you have an example of how you've done the holding space for ambiguity question? Do you have any example of that?
I was a researcher. So this was I put on my researcher hat and gathering data and feedback on a digital transformation project to figure out how to better prepare to the workforce. Or so that question about being handling ambiguity in an environment, it was figuring out the higher education initiative how to better prepare the students when they transition into employees going in the workforce, because the workforce was saying that they come in, they're educated, they have certificates or tools, but they really want us to hold their hand, and we don't have time to do that. You need to be able to figure it out. And a part of that was figuring out the biggest challenge is there's a disconnect in what you're learning in the classroom and trying to figure out what it means into practice. And so that's kind of why I also wanted in this presentation to not give you a bunch of information, but to say, how do you bridge what you're learning as a traditional project manager, and then how do you bridge it into in being innovative and embracing agility? And so learning more about having what you're teaching in the classroom and giving practical examples to an industry was a key point of that. Was also what are critical problem solving, critical steps, and we're thinking about AI, it's only an assistant or collaborator in success, right? You still have to be able to ask the right questions. And so really about things that are ambiguous is being able to ask the follow-up questions and not making it your sole responsibility to figure things out. And that has become the biggest challenges for us. You think, oh, this is ambiguous, I can't figure it out. Well, actually, you're not supposed to figure it out on your own. You're supposed to collaborate or ask follow-up questions. And so that is the real thing, is to ask the right questions and figure out who you can get those answers from.
We all say we want to meet the decision makers, but there are people around them that you don't realize are connected to the decision makers. So you have to treat everybody like they're a person and not like, I want to meet the person at the top. And that is a key part of my journey. I haven't always known who was the key person. And you have to get over that. Even I didn't treat an operator on the shop floor as less than because I'm an engineer. Recipe for disaster, because the people who are connected to the work know more than you do, and get over yourself.
Absolutely. That's a life lesson.
Think about the world as is. We have access to information and resources. And what is that information telling us about the future? The speed at which we can produce change and innovation. We're thinking about AI. Everyone's concerned about, will AI take over the world? And your project management, it can help you create your project schedules rapidly well. And you can prompt it to do certain things, but it will never take away human creativity and innovation and the ability to see things real time and all the intricate details. Being innovative is always going to be in style. And AI can't take your job away because of that. It can only assist you. Think of it as an assistant.
I have to always catch myself too. Once you get better, will you allow that kind of imperfection to occur again?
Challenge.
And the problem with that is we need to be agile and adaptable.
Yes.
But the problem with becoming better is that you don't allow imperfections to occur, and that the issue can become is that you think you know the way to do better, but you also have to always be willing to meet the moment in imperfection.